This video is about Jet Li. Somebody left a comment on my channel asking my opinion about Jet Li, and he left in the comment mentioning how he heard Jet Li mentioning the difference between him and Bruce Lee was Bruce Lee was more about the self, and Jet Li was more about unity and the whole and family. And that's something that I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I really do admire Jet Li. I think he's one of the greatest martial artists out there that has reached worldwide fame. Um, to me, Jet Li, um, personally, he'd probably be my second famous martial artist that I would label like my second biggest inspiration. My first biggest inspiration is obviously Bruce Lee. Um, but I don't know too much about Jet Li because unlike Bruce Lee, I don't think he has any books out there. Um, I don't see any books published from Jet Li, and so all that I know is what I've seen in his movies, maybe some things that I read on the internet, and there's not even that many interviews that you see with him, and if you do see it, it's um, very short interviews, and another thing is he doesn't speak English that well, so it's kind of harder for him to communicate to the American audience. But this is what I see. I just see that Jet Li is more like a pure Chinese. Like pure Chinese meaning he's been born in China, raised in China, and he speaks fluently the Chinese language, reads and writes it, and that's his homeland. That's where he lives, and that's where he's you know that's where his roots are. Um, Jet Li is not Chinese American. Jet Li is Chinese. He's like pure. Um, Bruce Lee is actually Chinese American. He's like half and half. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco, born in the U.S., and then he was raised in China, and then he came to America. So he has experience from both sides. So he's more of like in between. And then somebody like me, I'm more. I'm not even in between. I'm like more Americanized, but my blood is Chinese. So I was like born here, raised here, and I've never been to China. Never lived there, never visited there. So it's kind of like a Jet Li's, the peer, Bruce Lee's, like both, and then I'm more American, but then um, my blood is Chinese. So I see that it's almost like through the passage of time, you see that the Chinese blood, the culture, it could be dying out in America unless you put effort to keep it alive. And which I'm trying to. My heart is to put effort to keep the culture alive. But if I don't put that effort, then it could die. And then the culture, you know, we won't really hear much about it. Because I mean, you think about it. We had Bruce Lee that was trying to share the Chinese culture, and then we got Jet Li that's trying to share the Chinese culture. And people like Jackie Chan as well. But those stars, they're getting older, and they're gonna pass away. And really, you don't really see that many Chinese actors out there that are trying to promote the culture. You know, and to get into Hollywood in itself is extremely difficult. So you don't really see Hollywood promoting the Chinese culture. So then we're kind of reliant on like social media and YouTube to kind of have people that are just regular people, not celebrities, but just regular people trying to share the Chinese culture. Um, I see that Jet Li is more of a Eastern mentality, um, which is more like harmony, integration, culture, tradition. And then Bruce Lee's almost the opposite. Bruce Lee's more like Western. He's more like, Bruce Lee was more about the self. Bruce Lee was more about, ego. Jet Li's more about no ego, not about the self, but more about like the whole. Okay, Jet Li's more, very much more humble. You wouldn't ever imagine Jet Li, you know, um, stating to the world that he's the best. But you could definitely imagine Bruce Lee saying that. Bruce Lee was very known to be like very cocky, and he knew he was good, and he knew, you know, everybody that knew him pretty much said that, hey, he was a very cocky person, but then he was able to back it up, and you could see Bruce Lee would always have his shirt off, flexing his muscles. Jet Li, there's like no movie out there where he ever has his shirt off. Like you never see his shirt off, and that's part of his personality where to him it's more about humbleness, and he's always covering up his body, and you know so you see the different contrast between him and Bruce Lee. Jet Li was also very much about like tradition. The styles of the martial arts that Jet Li practiced, it's very traditional. You'll see Jet Li doing a lot of like traditional forms, and things like that. You never really see Bruce Lee doing that. Bruce Lee would do a lot of like sparring, and like combat drills, and he'll do choreographed fights, but you don't see him really doing forms. you know he doesn't really do that. um, for him it's different. He's more about like the application of the combat, but Jet Li's more about like doing, you know finding beauty, and practicing meditation through the practice of forms. I could see that.
It was more performance like.
Jet Li is more, Jenny said, Jet Li is more performance like.
Yep.
um, Jet Li has created like a lot of movies out there. I don't know how many, but it could be over 100 movies. Bruce Lee only produced maybe about five. And you see Jet Li's movies, very traditional, very culture oriented, are like the movies like Once Upon a Time in China 1, 2, and 3. Those are the movies that pretty much got him famous. And in those movies, it's all about the Chinese culture. Everything's in, you know the Chinese language, and it's showing the culture, the lion dancing, and these movies are very much traditional type of movies. And you also see Jet Li wearing a lot of traditional Chinese clothing. So Jet Li and Bruce Lee are very opposite in a way. Jet Li's like very Chinese. Bruce Lee has, he has that Western arrogance, and that ego, and that pride, and that confidence that comes with the West, and then he put it in with the East, and then that's what produced the Bruce Lee. Jet Li, you would never, you know, imagine him, you know, engaging in sparring and stuff like that. But Bruce Lee was all about that. Jet Li's more about good form and good technique and performance based, just like Jenny said. But Jet Li, won the Olympics, which is all performance based. It's just like performing a form solo to a high level, and then getting judged by the judges based on your performance, and then he'd win the gold medals. Um, you know, I think there's a lot that could be learned from him, from Jet Li, but because he doesn't really speak English that well, and because he's from China, he's not really going to be too concerned about America. Even when I even read somewhere, and I think it might have been a Wikipedia, where during the time when he won the gold medals and things like that, the president of the United States at that time said that, hey, you should be the bodyguard, my personal bodyguard, and the Jet Li's like, no, I'll be I'm from China, and I'm representing China, and I will be like a bodyguard for my nation or my country, or just something like that, you know. So he's very much committed to China. But Bruce Lee was in between. You know, Bruce Lee was born in America, but then he didn't get the respect that he wanted from America, so he went to China to make movies, or went to Hong Kong, and then he made movies there. He got the respect over there, and then he always wanted to get, you know, accepted in America. He always wanted to be in Hollywood, making movies, and he wanted to bring both cultures together, the East and the West. But Jet Li's more about, you know, Eastern cultures, and staying strong to that, you know. So, you know, as far as his movies concerned, I haven't seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of Jet Li movies, but clearly not all of them. Um, Martial art movies in particular, I just don't feel. A lot of them are not very well planned, well thought out. I mean, you got movies like, you know, movies like from Van Damme, or, you know, whoever, that it's just the plot is just not there. They're trying to figure out a reason of why they're fighting, and then they just run out of ideas, and then all you do is just see like people fighting over nonsense. And to me, a real martial arts film is not just about, okay, this cool fight scenes. No, um, there has to be a strong like storyline and a plot and a deep meaning behind the movie for it to really reach out to me and grasp me. But I've my two favorite Jet Li movies of all time. I would say the first one would be Fearless, which was his last movie that he made, and to me that's probably to me the best martial arts film ever made. Just simply because I felt the deep meaning behind it. You know, it was like the storyline was very deep, and the fight scenes were amazing. Fearless to me is probably my favorite martial arts movie of all time. You know, then my next favorite martial arts movie from Jet Li would be Hero. Hero was an amazing movie. It's another movie that has a deep meaning as well. These movies, they took a lot of time to make it. It's not just like something quickly thrown together like some of these Tony Jaa movies, or, you know, or some of the Bruce Lee movies, the earlier ones. I mean, these are like really well thought out, you know, plot lines and storylines, and they invested like millions of dollars to make these movies like one of the best. You know, so my favorite would be here, you know, Fearless, and then the second one would be Hero. Those are my two favorite Jet Li movies of all time. Um, One of the movies that he was in that had some of the best fight scenes, um, to me, were like, was the Fist of Legend, and that's pretty much a remake of Bruce Lee's movie of I think the Chinese Connection, and that movie, he had like a great amount of amazing amount of fight scenes. You know, that they were like hardcore, like this is the stuff that could really work like on the streets. You know, I like those types of movies where it's not just like them flying in the air, jumping up, and then like flying for like 30 seconds. And but that's the thing, Bruce, you know, Jet Li would do both types of movies. Jet Li would make a movie like Fist of Legend, and then he'll turn around and make a movie like Once Upon a Time in China, where they're fighting in a very traditional way, which is not really practical at all, but it's more just kind of like performance based, and cultural, you know, expression. But Fist of Legend, I liked the fight scenes in there a lot. Um, you know, it was a really good remake of Bruce Lee's Chinese Connection. You know, so that would probably be my third favorite Jet Li movie. My fourth favorite would be the storyline was just stupid, but the fight scenes, I liked the fight scenes. That movie was Kiss of the Dragon, you know, with Jet Li. The story, it was that movie was actually made in Hollywood. The first three that I mentioned were all made in China, but Kiss of the Dragon was made in Hollywood, and Jet Li didn't really have any speaking role. That didn't really speak much in the movie. He was just basically there for the fighting. If you just look at the fighting and that's it, the storyline was just stupid, as in a lot of Hollywood movies. But the fight scenes, what I liked about it, the fight scenes, they were very like just raw fight scenes that were like street type of fighting where it's not, this is the stuff that works. It's not the fancy, like spinning it around in the air 50 times and then kicking the person and just unrealistic type of things. um, I'm not really into those types of movies like that. um, but the Kiss of the Dragon did have some good fight scenes, you know. So those would be my top four. There's other movies that I've seen from him, but I watched them so long ago that I don't even remember if they're even that good of a quality movies. Like there's Unleashed and The One, and he had a lot of movies, you know. But that's what I think about him, and you know, the interviews that I've seen him in, he's a very humble person, like very peaceful, and he never really takes credit for anything, and he's always like downplaying his skills and talents, and he's not competitive, and I know that he's very, very spiritual. I think he's a Buddhist, and another thing is like he's the type of person where he doesn't show off at all. He's the type of person where he would not be in any movies where he like becomes intimate with a woman, because he knows that like the fan base that he has, these women that are fans of him could commit suicide when they see him kiss a woman. So he doesn't get involved in any of that. um, he doesn't put himself in the spotlight. I think he mentioned that like he doesn't like to be in the spotlight. He doesn't want to walk in the red carpet and have everybody like infringe upon his privacy. He likes to live a very private life, away from the limelight. He you know he's a practicing Buddhist. He never takes his shirt off. He's very humble. He's basically like the extreme Eastern way. And we all know about the extreme Western way, which is like, hey, I'm rich now, so let me just sleep with 50,000 women and spend all this money and show off to everybody and take off my shirt and flex to everybody, and you know be arrogant and conceited and basically like a Mayweather. Like that's the extreme Western person. Like flaunting all his money, throwing his money out in the public, driving all these fancy cars, and you know just making a fights for millions of dollars for one fight, and just talking trash and being arrogant, and the whole Western thing. And then you got the Eastern, which is Jet Li, which is pretty much the opposite. Somebody who's like famous but doesn't make a big deal about it, somebody who's talented but doesn't brag about it. Um, and then Bruce Lee was like in between. Bruce Lee wasn't like too Western, but he wasn't too Eastern either. He was very balanced. Like Bruce Lee would know when to put on clothes and when to take off his shirt. When to kind of lay low, when to stand up for himself. Like in End of the Dragon, you know, that bully that was in the boat. I mean, Bruce Lee could have whooped him up, but then Bruce is like, I don't want to fight. Why don't we go to that island over there? And then all of a sudden he says the art of fighting without fighting. Then he just made a fool out of the person without even having to fight the person. So Bruce Lee had that part of him, but then he had the other part where it's like, they just killed my sister, so now I'm going to get back at them. Or they killed my master, and I'm going to get back at them. The revenge aspect, of Bruce Lee. And then there's the more peaceful aspect of Bruce Lee. Um, Jet Li's he's more of the peaceful. And they really have to kind of find some plot, some storyline to really engage him in a fight, to give a reason of why he's even fighting. I think that's the difficult thing about all martial art movies, is that martial artists aren't supposed to just fight because they get upset. Martial artists are supposed to, have more control, over the situation and really avoid fighting situations. But if you're talking about a movie that's supposed to be a martial arts movie, then you really have to come up with some ideas of why this martial artist ends up fighting, And I think they end up running out of a lot of ideas, and then you get a lot of these movies that it just becomes ridiculous, the things that they fight about, like to the point where it's like you're watching the fight scene and you're wondering, like, why are they fighting again? What happened? There's really no strong storyline in between, about it, and I think Hero and Fearless were amazing movies, but something like, Fist of Legend was just a remake of a story that Bruce Lee was in, or a movie that Bruce Lee was in. So that's kind of clear cut. Let's just follow the same plot, you know. But Kiss of the Dragon is one of those examples. Is kind of where it's like, we got to come up with a stupid reason of why this person's gonna end up fighting, And a lot of these martial art movies, that's why they end up. They're not like, they're really like low budget type of movies. They're not like gonna win any Academy Awards because there's not enough, effort put into the storylines to make it something significant. But something like The Matrix, for example, it wasn't just about the fighting. I mean, the fighting was just the action part of the greater part of the movie that was very, well thought out, extremely well thought out, to the point where there's very few movies that have ever been produced that would make you question things about life the way that that movie did. But you're not going to get that out of like an average martial art movies. And another thing is, the people that directed The Matrix, they're very much heavily influenced by the Eastern cultures. And that's why they created a movie like that. Because they really were in tune with the Eastern ways. And movies like Fearless and Hero, and even Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, those types of movies have a combination of martial arts and the storyline and plot that really brings it all together into making an amazing movie, you know, um, opposed to just being a movie that's just, oh, they had some good fight scenes. I think there's been so many thousands of movies produced that these fight scenes they just get they get old, and really it doesn't draw me in at all, you know. But I think I remember an actor, I forgot which actor, who mentioned that it's not about how cool the fight scene is. It's more about like how the actor is able to kind of reach out to the audience, to connect with the audience, that, and then now the audience, they're kind of attached to this actor, and then when the actor gets in a fight, the audience gets emotionally involved as well, because they're so in tune with the actor and how they drew him in to kind of, you know, it makes it more than just about the fighting. It's about like, something deeper than just that, you know. So I think there's an art to it, and I think Bruce Lee, you know, he's probably, in my eyes, the only person that's ever lived that's gotten into the mainstream that was able to choreograph fight scenes the most realistic that it could possibly be. Whereas everybody else, they're not really martial artists. They don't choreograph it the right way. They choreograph it in a way where it's like performance based, or just kind of like what looks cool. And but Bruce Lee really had it down, And I feel that Jet Li, in some of the movies that he's made, like, he's made some high quality movies as well, where the fight scenes are very much, very real, you know, very raw, you know. But that's what I gotta say about Jet Li. He's an inspiration. He has a lot of movies out there, and I recommend people to watch his movies. Him and Bruce Lee are the two main people that I would recommend. And that's it.
Can I,
What?
can I ask a question? What do you think about Donnie Yen? He's in a lot of movies too, though.
That'd have to be another video.
Okay.